convergence of blockchain and AI. Now with AI, you can expect within this year, we're going to see deep fake so real, you cannot tell the difference. People watching this on live stream, they will not know what's in here.
We're not here.
We're having dinner somewhere else. So to counter that, you need some form of digital watermark. That is actually a cryptographic evidence
that you're
this
real.
is real.
Yeah.
It's my signature, his signature.
Who puts that? The tech companies? By the way, they're so excited at the back. They're trading crypto on the back of these comments.
It's all your fault. No, we control our private key. It's going to be public
It'll
key.
be personal.
We'll have control.
It's going to be like your irises, your fingerprints. It'll be a digital.
But it's stored on blockchain, witnessed by the global population.
Everybody knows.
Cannot be faked.
Yeah. But does this change everything for just capital markets?
It will. Yeah, I mean, my gosh, if we could tokenize bonds and stocks tomorrow, one of the great things that BlackRock is being accused of is how much vote we have. I wouldn't vote anymore because we would be able, through tokenization, to know the owner of record instantaneous, and each owner of record will do their proxy voting. I would love that outcome. No, but it would democratize investing in all ways that we can't imagine.
Even political systems, how you vote in a country can be changed by that.
And do you think that, again, the Trump administration will accelerate that?
I think they're moving that direction. How far they actually will go remains to be seen.
But if you do have a digital validator, like your fingerprints or your irises, I mean, you could tokenize voting, you could do everything. And so it will change how we think and how we live and what we do. And
we've been talking to some Southeast Asian governments, including Malaysia, Thailand, Philippines, Indonesia. All of them historically have the populations who are treating black market, bitcoins and what have you. But now the governments are realizing US is driving a global policy shift. So they're now doing something very clever. They're saying, you know what, we're going to issue a new form of digital ID to every single citizen. Along with that is a digital wallet.
Which Brazil and India has already done.
You're both so fighting.
We suffer from a serious hazard which Hong Kong, Taiwan and Korea do not. In Hong Kong, the British Western influence is superficial. So there is no danger of being overwhelmed, of having your original culture displaced. Our danger is that we've got so much of EL1, books, newspapers, magazines, TV, that we could become a pseudo-Western society. Not a real Western society. If you're a real Western society, that's another matter. But you become a pseudo-Western society, a fake one. That's a disaster. The problem is with the upper crust. Many people believe that that segment at the top represents Singapore. It does not. There is the ground undertow of your society. And it is our business to keep that undertow Asian. And therefore we have to preserve our society from being transformed. And when you have this offshore press trying to set the pace, we say, off with thee, this is my society.
That is our job. We don't run government, we don't run policies, but we have the intellectual capacity to frame a conversation. You understand? Let me now conclude by making you sad The Nigerian Civil War was planned on the campus of the University of Ibadan. Somebody has to write a book on that, in which the Vice Chancellor, a prominent historian, you already know who I'm talking about, was also using his house to frame the project of the Civil War. You understand? And I'm not criticizing him, because when you cut segments of a conversation, it becomes a problem to those who are interpreting it. I'm not criticizing him. The Nigerian Civil War was led by an educated person who trained in England, one of the very first to have a degree to join the Nigerian army. The debates about Ironsi was framed for him by those who went to school on a unitary government. You understand? It is not that these intellectuals have not been talking, but they are also embedded in this very project you want to solve. So in the final analysis, you see how interest governs politics. And as interest drives politics, the very fact that you have a PhD doesn't mean...
There are two questions, and I have a third issue that I think, Ruben, you need to address. But let me start with the questions we have raised. I think first, the issue of INEC. I think everybody is fairly aware that INEC, as presently constituted, has lost a lot of credibility. And it is very important that the institution gains this credibility. Otherwise, the stability of the country is going to be threatened. Because when you have institutions that are not delivering, and especially a key institution like INEC, and if this failure continues, then it will erode not only, confidence in INEC, but confidence in democracy itself. And when that happens, you know the consequences. So let me come back to INEC. I think there are amendments that the whole country is waiting for. For example, that amendment, which I think late President Buhari refused to give assent to, which mandates INEC to use electronic tools and to use technology in delivering the result, is still pending. But more importantly, why should the president, whoever is the president of the country, who is an interested party in the election, be the one to propose the head of INEC? I think late Uwais committee has made very good recommendations, which have been blocked by those who are interested in manipulating INEC. I think we have to rescue INEC by making sure that the head of INEC is not appointed by a sitting president who is going to be interested in election. So there are a number of things that needs to be done. I'm not sure there is sufficient time for us to raise that, but I think the key issues are two. One, that INEC's credibility is at stake, and two, we have got to insulate INEC from political interference. If that doesn't happen, then it is the democracy that is holding the country that's being actually run down. And when that happens, there are consequences. The second question, if I remember correctly, which you raised, is where do we go from here? Considering what former President Jonathan said. And I think it ties down with the issue that I really think you should be raising, because the whole gathering in Accra is around the crisis of democracy, that democracy is not delivering the expectations of the people. And in Nigeria, if you take the statistics from 1999 to date, that's about 25 years. If you take the indices of development, whether you are taking the paternal and maternal mortality rates, or if you are taking the if you are taking the GDP, the growth in the economy, if you are taking all the indices of development that you take, you will see that from 1999 to date, we have been going down the drain. In fact, the GDP for this year is said to be much lower, actually about less than half of what it was in 1960. In other words, this country, under this democracy, is actually going down the drain. And it is time to really ask, of what use, of what benefit is democracy if it cannot really deliver? Is democracy made for the people or people for democracy? If democracy is supposed to serve society, then it has failed in Nigeria. And it is time to start thinking of how do we really bring about a system that can work for us. I watched the debate from beginning to the end, and I was saddened by the fact that the elite that gathered there could not think out of the a box of Western frame of thinking. In other words, they were all, and especially the guest speaker himself, he was going round and round while admitting the failure of democracy. He was still saying that we should stick to democracy. And that doesn't make sense. I mean, you have admitted that this system has failed to deliver. And you are saying that we should still hang on to it.
To win a senatorial seat is now between 1.2 billion, 1 or 2 billion. You need that to win a Senate seat. To win a House of Reps, you need another 1 billion. State House of Assembly, you need about 500 M to win that. To win governorship, you need, depending on the state, for Delta, you need about like 20. For Rivers, you need about 25 billion. For some of those states in the north, maybe 4 or 5 or 6 billion. So it's a capital intensive project, which is what is driving the corruption in our country right now. So every time somebody is in office, it is not education the person is thinking of. Except if whatever he wants to do in education will provide some money that they can leverage on when the time for election comes.
Accused of partisan bias. You're welcome back to Breakfast Central. After that very short break, Nigeria's electoral umpire, the Independent National Electoral Commission, over the weekend came under intense scrutiny as Chairman Professor Joash Amupita is accused of partisan bias, with forensic evidence linking him to a political social media account despite official denials by the Commission. Public pressure is mounting for his resignation, raising questions about the integrity of Nigeria's electoral process. Joining us this morning to discuss the implications of this credibility crisis, what it means for the elections, and INEC is a fintech and tech analyst, Fisayo Durojaye. A warm welcome to you, Fisayo, and thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you for joining us.
Now, Fisayo, what do you make of everything we saw over the weekend? The account, the denials. Could you give us a tech trip?
Chuku no Bogu. I beg, make I not destroy your name, but let me just say Chooks. How far? That number is not my Yahoo number. That's not my Yahoo number. So if you are not in my Yahoo Connect, I don't think you can. But that number, if you try to reach me on Instagram, sorry, WhatsApp. That's if you can reach me on that. If you reach me on that number using WhatsApp, but I don't know where you did. Maybe I mean, I think WhatsApp now. WhatsApp is now global, if I'm not mistaken. It's been global. If now only we were there, America at times. Only Americans who don't have friends, relative, or what have you outside the country that really don't use WhatsApp. So if you use WhatsApp, use that. Yeah, I will get it. Anyway, you have to. Yeah. I did see your corner, but I did use the phone. What do we do now? Let me.
What happened and what is really going on?
Yes.
And how are we sure that that account belongs to Professor Joash Amopitan? What are the telltale signs?
Yes. So first, I would like to say that I think the initial tweet that brought us this issue.
I did see your. I saw your call. Yeah, later, better. Because I they use the phone as my camera. They use my laptop as my as the laptop is the engine room. Now there they switch, play all these clips from. So the season, the political landscape of of Nigeria, as of this moment, April waiting say, what's today's date? April 13, 2026. Wait a minute. I'm trying to see something real quick. All right. Let me see this. I think this should be gone by now. Oop, my bad. Yes, so as of today, being Monday the 13th of 2026, the political landscape of our country called Nigeria confirmed that the MAGA party strategy has indeed moved towards a consensusship. I've been saying this, consensus first approach. So anyway, as the dust settles on the ADC internal deliberation, the path to 2027 is becoming clearer. If you are paying attention enough, unless you're being carried away with the propaganda headline and all that kind of shit. So the era for a fractured opposition appears to be ending. All right, because they always talk everything at time, even Bible talk there's time for everything. So this politician, they always calculate. If there is anything I would say is even more important than vote itself, is time. Money is number one when it comes to the politics that we are practicing. Money at the top, because money buy everything, including the votes. Two, time. Time is very important. Timing, because everything get date. Then vote. And the Agapata of law is fear. Because fear, when they start to project fear, automatically we differentiate about 40 or 50% of people who are willing to participate because of fear of kidnapping, fear of killing, fear of election rigging, fear of glitch, fear of Tinubu go win, fear of Obino go be president, fear, all kind of nonsense just to keep you they will exhaust you even before the time reach, and God will come bless you during that day of election. Something important come up, or something you will like come up. You're like, fuck that shit anyway. After all, the status will continue. So all these things, yes, if you understand the timing, wait until they deploy all these tools, then you understand that you feel sorry for the younger obedience who are still in the learning process, because they just talk with their emotion. Today na Congo, so tomorrow na Tiku, na ADC na. So if you follow, you know that the era of fractured opposition appears to be ending. It's going to be replaced by calculated consensus. That's for sure. So the obedience energy remains potent. I mean, you can't help than to reckon with the obedience energy. And that's the reason people like Showore, once in a while, go poke them. And I will go meet, will go poke Abia State Governor, who's also in constituencies at the obedience, or go after Obi himself, or go after, but the new strategy now, the youths, the younger youths are going to be up in arms against each other. Because Showore is not backing down. That's why he says he carry VDM for it. VDM on his own, that's the product of the state, of the system, right? His job is not to necessarily to be 100% to support the government and all that, but his job is to the job is to get the attention of the majority of the youth and project that attention to things that will not even have impact on the election at all. So they will divide the youth among themselves. VDM, who is not aligned to any of the political party. Showore, who is more is the, well, at this point, what does he have to lose when it comes to the Nigerian space? But Obi is at the top, who control that. In terms of, one would say, I don't know about 100% of Nigeria now obedient day, but 75% of the country is kind of aware of that kind of movement. Then Kumpozo is on the other side of the spectrum. So at the end of the day, this faction, they could fight themselves till the election period. So that's why the obedience, there's a need to keep that energy. Every of them with the pocket just to make sure, because that's what filming. That's pretty much their inspiration. Dare them, insult them, challenge them. Then they will take up that tax. So as it is, the machinery of the Grand Alliance, as they are trying to want to, claim, is gravitating towards a familiar center of gravity. And that's, as far as ADC is concerned, is built around Atiku Abubakar. So, question that we ask that, is this the winning formula to challenge the APC, or a return to the status quo? Right, turn by turn. So let's act as if we are giving with a challenge the man himself, but in the real sense, we are protecting him from any surprise, so that he will reach our turn peacefully. So, but in the high stake of a game of Nigerian politics, consensus is often the only bridge between ambitions and reality. And if there's any person that understands that really well, it's Atiku. So, as you see, it's becoming clearer. The math doesn't care about the vibes on Twitter. It never did, and it will never will. So for months now, we heard the drums. Number one, or nothing. As Obi or nothing. That is the play from the Obi camp. Even though it's a very romantic line to toe, but it fuels the rally, keep the energy going. But rallies don't fund the logistics of what? How many polling stations we get in Nigeria? Over 170 something, 175,000, I've been at 176,000. That's a lot hell of logistics across the length and breadth of the country. So vibe and rally really don't go far. You need cash. You need time. So the 170 something thousand polling units. So, but as the saying go, in this room, we deal in cold, hard variables. The 2026 Electoral Act, the Northwest delegates, and the reality of a ruling party that doesn't plan on losing. So it's a competition, not just within themselves, but even outside the weight. The ADC isn't just a party anymore. It is a lifeboat at this point, which is why I say timing is very important. And on a lifeboat, everyone has to throw in the same direction. If Peter Obi and Atiku go to a full-blown primary, they don't just exhaust their funds. That's another way to say it. Obi have the money to push logistics across the length and breadth of the country for over 170 something thousand polling units. Considering the time between now and primaries. And when you go, everything will have to be deployed. Helicopter or plane or everything you know, because a movement that doesn't necessarily have structure that is that widespread is going to be very, if not impossible. This is why I did talk throughout last year for Obidient to actually, go into this competition with a chance of winning. They need nothing less than 20,000 volunteers. At least 2 years before the election. 2 years before the election, 20,000 volunteers across the length and breadth of Nigeria, just making sure they are engaging with the people, with Obi policies, whatever they believe in. 2 goddamn years, then they stand a chance of competition. But at this point, anyway, I'm not in the inner caucus or in the planning committee or their neck, as they always want to phrase it, of the Obidient. So let me keep my finger crossed. So if they go for primaries, like direct primaries, I don't think Obidient have the money to mobilize to run the logistics that we cover 170 something thousand polling units. The APC, on the other hand, will have the election won by breakfast if they go that route. So we arrive at a consensus. It is a bitter pill for some. And those some are obedient. They never understand that yet. The youth want a revolution. It's more than just want. It has to be well organized, well funded. And a section of the elite have to be part of it. The disgruntled one. Those that want power. But in this case, they are gravitating toward the ruling party. So how do we reconcile that? Nowhere in the world that the youth produce a president solely. No. Anyway, that's a question for another day. The elders want a restoration. The young people want revolution. The elder want restoration. That's where we are. So Atiku has a structure, the deep-rooted network in the core that you just can't build in a single cycle. No, that motherfucker has been running this shit for the past 32 years. That must count for something. You got to count for something. Peter Obi has the pulse of the future, which is the youth. So the deal is simple. Even if the optics are hard, Atiku takes the helm for the final punch. And Peter Obi becomes the engine, the super VP, or the Secretary General of the Federation. With it, it's pragmatism dressed up as patriotism. That's what we are seeing. So it is what the streets ask for. Maybe not, but in this game, you don't always get what you want. You get what you can negotiate. That's what power is about. You negotiate, then before you go look for a vote. It's as simple as that. They are negotiating tactics, even Obi or not in the negotiating language. So you don't get what you want, you get what you negotiated for, what you can negotiate. And right now, the only thing worth negotiating for is a unified front. So that's why I said, you either settle for a VP or you get a fuck out and go to NDC. We'll get there. The question isn't whether they will agree. It is whether they can convince the people that this marriage of convenience is actually a love match for Nigeria. That's where we are. From outside looking into the ADC. But what do I know? I listen to experts.
Was done in 2022. And I think that at the time, Professor Amokutan is a private citizen. And I think that I can tweet whatever I want to tweet. I guess the biggest problem was when it was being appointed as the electoral umpire is meant to be seen, is meant to be unbiased and seen as unbiased, right? Both ingredients are required in making, this electoral commission head, do his work.
Isn't that what they saw before
from what we've seen, right? And of course, the coordinated communication between from the office of the president,
vote of confidence,
and of course with INEC and the denials, and of course people just asking, say XAI's, grok, to say, is this?
They don't go from Google. No, grok that they do the grok
that, yes,
the
same
past.
person that owns the initial account that tweeted.
They don't even know where the owners of grok are already in bed with Tinubu. People don't understand how these apps work.
On XA or on Twitter, as it was.
Okay, so
I know about Tinubu don't sign better deal with
as a tech expert, I'm not the expert here.
Elon Musk and co.
INEC had criticized the statement saying, of course, that Professor Josh Amokutan did not own the X account. However,
if that is the case, anything you ask for,
and Brock said
there's
that
always
the
been in
account
favor
that
of.
eventually became Sunday Vibes 00 and also became another name that I think Pakria knows something. I'm not quite sure what it was.
Acquire.
Yeah, whatever that parody account name became, that was actually Professor Josh Amokutan's account from 2022. That was the original name.
I don't know why they worry about the guy.
Is there a possibility that
Una senator don't
it will be very
give the guy go ahead. This is like
platform, which is Twitter or X, they're the same ones that developed what's called Grok AI, and of course you cannot erase the history, right? I can change my username multiple times, but even Instagram has that feature. You're able to see, okay, this is the name that you were before, this is the name you are today, what the name evolution has been. So that is, it's going to be very difficult, practically impossible for Grok to be wrong on the transition.
It's not the matter that Grok is wrong or right. It doesn't matter. It's inconsequential.
The data around the username is clear and
it's allowed to be a partisan
erased as
citizen.
But to the public, we can see that, okay, the name has changed. If you don't know the account before, we won't know what had happened before. But from a back-end perspective, I think they're able to understand who or what the evolution of the name has been.
I'd like us to look at it from this aspect, especially looking at the fact that many have discredited INEC chairman from owning that account. I think it's also good that we enlighten Nigerians to understand the implications of this. I know we're going to look at it from the judiciary aspect of what would happen going forward, but is it possible for one to register an account? I mean, you're a tech guy here. Is it possible for one to register an account and do it without using a particular phone number? Is it possible to register an account without an email address? Is it also possible to register an account without an IABI number? Because all these three have been highlighted and recognized and have been found in the aspect of,
Listen to Showore. No matter the provocation, you don't bomb highly populated areas. They are the ones who always claim that they are professional armed forces. And without being a member of the armed forces, I know that no matter the provocation, you don't bomb highly populated areas. But the Nigerian Air Force has a history of killing innocent people from the air. And we are wondering, is that deliberate? Was it deliberate in Kaduna or Katsina, Zamfara, where they have done it, and even in Borno several times? I think there was a year they bombed the refugee camp and killed a lot of people. And what you hear all the time is that when soldiers who are on the front lines call them, they never show up. But they only show up to bomb highly populated areas. So there's something wrong with our armed forces in the way they are prosecuting a war against banditry and terrorism. If you have intelligence that these terrorists are in the market and you are professional, what you do is to follow them back to where they came from, to the markets. How is it that they never bombed the terrorist housing estates inside Sambisa? It's only when they go out that you bomb them and you kill innocent people. So that tells you something. And if you know they are in the market, what happened to the ground troops who are supposed to ambush them and take care of their movement? So this has become an occurrence that we can no longer even call suspicion. It looks like this is a deliberate action to target people who are already victimized and who are vulnerable by the armed forces of Nigeria. We have always said that there's always a desire on their part to kill innocent people, whether they are at protests or in refugee camps and now in markets. These people are already themselves victims of the terrorism that are allowed to grow. And now you have gone to the market to kill several of them. And you are now telling us that I saw the map that they distributed to say, oh, they saw some trucks of the terrorists and they had to bomb them. You should have followed the terrorists when they left the market so that they won't be able to cook what they bought in the market. That's how it is done. That means the terrorists have a location that is not the market. How come Nigeria Air Force cannot locate? That's what they did with Shekau. For the years that Shekau was alive, they never bombed his abode. They're always bombing other places except where he stays. Which shows to you that they know these terrorists. And Gumi has always said it, that they know their location, they talk to them regularly, and I think they don't want terrorism to end so that they can be fetching huge profit from it.
Sadly, chairman of INEC has been whistled over the decade about his support for the ADC over a tweet that has been denied by the commission and also been denied by them. And Nigerians went further to fact check to know who owns the accounts, which allegedly turned out to be the INEC chairman. Would you also call him for his resignation?
You guys are late to the game. I was the first person who came out of a meeting with him and told Nigerians that the man is even going to be worse than the last one.
based on my perception of him sitting up there. But the INEC chairman is not the only person who is in the APC. All the INEC commissioners are APC members, federal commissioners. Most of the INEC, what they call state electoral commissioners, are APC members. Go and check. Most of the judges in the Supreme Court are APC members. So if you want to clean the audience table, let it be at once. Don't pick and choose. You know, this idea of who do you expect Tinubu to appoint as INEC chairman? His enemy? He's going to appoint his friend now. And I said upstairs, the people who are asking Tinubu to remove Amukwita are proposing their own candidate to replace him so that that person too can favor them. That's confusion. The solution is to have a system in place where the INEC chairman is not appointed by the president who is contesting in an election. Maybe what we should do is to say, look, there must be a body in this country that looks for a credible person, and the person is scrutinized by the public. There's a public hearing about them for weeks, like they do in the U.S. You want to become a Supreme Court judge in the U.S., they will scrutinize you from secondary school, primary school, all your girlfriends that you have forgotten, they will come out and tell the story about you. Then the parliament can then decide, and then there will be judicial scrutiny. But this one, they will just say, oh, he has gone for scrutiny at the DSS. Who appointed the DSS person who is scrutinized is not the same Tinubu. They're all together. So don't let us be confused and waste our time on what I call inanities. He was going to appoint the person who will favor him. And as I stated, and I'll say it again, Tinubu can never organize a free and fair election. It's not possible. He has never done it before, and he will not do it now. It's not in his character to do anything that is fair. Yes, somebody whose name is not his name, whose secondary school that he went to was established after he graduated from there. His daughter. You know, the daughter is almost his age. You know, so his elder brother, who died, I think 2 years ago, was 93 years old. But he didn't attend his burial because he didn't want people to know that that's his elder brother. What are you going to do with the ones that are here now? You have 36 states that, you know, they are technically insolvent. How do they call it? They are all bankrupt. They want to create states just to appeal to the sentiments of Nigerians. Why don't we make, you know, that's the confusion about the political class. One of them will say, let's go back to region. Then the other ones will create more states. You know, there will be one section will be asking for regionalization, or what do they call restructuring. The next day they say, go and create more states. They don't even know what they want. And that is why we never participate in this bandwagon conversation. Because Nedwoko wants to become the governor of the state so that he can loot that state and arrest everybody there, keep them in Abuja. Why he himself, maybe he's looking for another underage wife, you know. Yes.
Okay, so lastly, there was something some people actually said on social media. I just wanted to react to.
Yes.
That's why is it that you are always on the side of probably criminals who actually have committed an offense, and you are insisting that they should be freed?
You cannot call a person a criminal except a judge has declared the person a criminal. So, but just to be sure, as a media person, you can call a person a criminal generically. That's use of language. But for your information, I don't support criminals. That's why I'm not in support of Tinubu. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. And that's number one criminal in this country. I'm not afraid to say it. So the people that I support are the vulnerable people in society who are targeted with state power. Those are the people that I go out of my way to support. So, and in all these interventions, the people that we have supported have come out. They can't even continue their cases. There was a guy that spent years in detention for saying that if he has money, he will shoot Buhari, Solomon Akuma. He's now a pharmacist. I supported him. He went through this court. They couldn't convince him. But you people will call him a criminal. Shella, one social media guy like that, young guy, he wrote something about Jonathan's wife. We got him out. He's doing well today. Ijele, whose kidney has already failed at Ikoyi prison. We got him out. He's doing well today for himself. In fact, he has gone back to the federal government that prosecuted him to be making mouth. Even very dark man, if I had not intervened on his behalf on Easter Sunday of 2024, that was the day he was arrested. It was the first time he enjoyed freedom, and he brags about it. He will not be able to be doing what he's doing today if I had abandoned him in prison at that time. When he was arrested second time, I went to the Federal Ministry of Justice with Pelumi and all these lawyers, and they invited me back with Deji at 4 p.m. to say, we are going to release him. By 5 o'clock, Deji was already released him. He's doing well for himself. But it is wrong to adopt the same method to oppress other people. So you could also have said that Very Dark Man is a criminal when he was arrested for cybercrime twice, or when the EFCC said they want to keep him for as long as they want because they suspected that he's a criminal. They are suspects. And the fact that you are suspected of committing a crime should not lead to your being sent to prison permanently without first resolving whether you have committed a crime or not. I can mention names. Even recently, you've been in this court when I was asking for them to be fair and just towards Malami. Malami is on bail now, even though he had an agreement not to talk too much with the federal government. We're talking about free and fair procedures and processes for people like El Rufai, and we hope that one of these days he will also be out to enjoy his freedom while the trial is going on. But in cases that I've intervened in, except Nnamdi Kanu, who was sentenced to prison, I do not agree even that he's a criminal because they were unable to prove that he committed any of the crimes. So that was a political trial and sentencing. And he too will someday be out. I'm saying that is a function of context. Contextually, I don't agree that somebody who is fighting for self-determination is a criminal. Otherwise, we could have called Nelson Mandela a criminal. You could have called Malcolm X a criminal. In fact, Malcolm X was coming from prison where he was jailed for drug dealing. And it became a beacon of resistance that you and I use in praying to the God of justice today. So contextually too, don't be lost on it that some people that you think is a criminal are just victims of state repression. Because the state has capacity. Why don't you call me a criminal? Am I not facing 5 criminal cases in this court? Why are you not calling me a criminal? Because you know in your conscience that I've not committed any crime known to law. That they are just using their politics and using their senior advocates and judges to suppress and persecute me. So, yes.
What do you make of the allegations by Ijele plot to assassinate you?
I'll address it upstairs. That Ijele wasn't lying. The person who sent Ijele has confessed to me and Deji that they actually, under Buhari, plotted to kill me. It's not even secret. They brought someone with a dagger in front of the DSS to stab me at the Federal High Court here. I was attacked right here. I was attacked 3 times. There was a time they threw a rock into my car. So it's public knowledge that the Buhari regime had people who were sent. But until the Ijele said it, maybe most of you did not know. And the reason I'm not wasting my time on it is that I know they have other plots. It's just that one that has come to light. Even as I'm speaking with you now, they have plots. The people, they are at the gate there when we came in fighting us for no reason. So they're always plotting. And I don't know how, part of why they make these things open and transparent to you is because they want you to come and beg them for police protection. But I cannot go and ask for police protection from the people who want to kill me. They are the ones plotting it. It was brought to my attention today that the IGP met with some people on how to do something against me. So should I not leave my house and continue the Ministry of Justice that we do? We are the real Ministry of Justice. That one is Federal Ministry of Injustice. So there's nothing to Ijele's case. But as I always say, when it comes to Ijele, we did the part that we had to do. And he's a free man today. And maybe by accident, knowing that, because he also said it, that when it comes to real activism, these are the people that do it. Maybe that's the reason why, maybe he's converted, but he still hasn't received salvation yet. Yes.
Still doubting.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
God bless you.
Sure, Warren. I only show Warren as a politician. I don't like. Warren as a politician is a bad politician. He's a bad politician. But we need them. Society needs him. Nigeria need them. If not just to the antagonize and keep those, especially those who want power. Not be those who already the power. They don't really they send that, but those who that want power, and them they get sleepless nights over people like Showore. So that's why it's needed. But he want to be president. He get plenty roads to go. She has a long ass way to go.
Comments attributed to Amukpiton suggest political Obaka have called for the immediate resignation.
Listen to this.
The African Democratic Congress, ADC, and former Vice President Atiku Abubakar have called for the immediate resignation of the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Josh Amukpiton, citing concerns over his perceived impartiality and the integrity of the electoral process. The demand comes amid growing controversies surrounding claims that past comments attributed to Amukpiton suggest political alignment with the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, raising concerns among opposition figures about the neutrality of the electoral body ahead of future elections. On Friday, Amukpiton, through his spokesperson, Adedayo Kitola, issued a rebuttal on claims that the INEC chairman was President Tinubu's supporter, affirming he is a neutral appointee, a requirement mandated by the Constitution to protect the sanctity of the nation's election space. The Supreme Court has scheduled a hearing for Tuesday in the appeals filed by the Kabiru Turaki-led faction of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and the factional national chairman of the African Democratic Congress, David Mark. The three appeals are against the recent judgments by the Court of Appeal in Abuja. The Turaki-led PDP is against two judgments delivered on March 9, affirming two judgments of the Federal High Court in Abuja that ordered the People's Democratic Party not to hold its national convention scheduled for November 15 and 16, 2025 until it complied with relevant statutory provisions, including the Electoral Act and regulations and guidelines for political parties 2022. The second was a judgment by Justice Lifu, delivered on November 14, 2025, in which the PDP was ordered not to proceed with its planned convention until it afforded a former governor of Jigawa State, Sule Lamido, the opportunity to prepare and contest as the chairmanship candidate in the elective convention. Mark's appeal is against the March 12 judgment of the Court of Appeal, which dismissed the ex-Senate President's appeal in relation to the ongoing leadership dispute in the party. Supporters of the David Mark-led faction of the African Democratic Congress, ADC, remain unsure of the ability of the party to conduct its national convention billed for Abuja on Tuesday as the leadership continues to keep them guessing on its plans for the event. Division among members is also mounting in several state chapters of the party ahead of the convention. Meanwhile, the African Democratic Congress, ADC, announced May 12, 2026 as the date for the inauguration of its newly elected state executives and chairmen across the country. In a statement issued by its National Publicity Secretary, Bolaji Abdullahi, the party congratulated the officials on the successful and peaceful conduct of their state congresses, describing the process as a clear demonstration of the ADC's commitment to internal democracy, transparency, and the rule of law. In other news, the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, has said President Bola Tinubu remains politically ahead of opposition figures ahead of the 2027 general elections. Keyamo made the claim in a post on his verified X handle on Sunday, where he highlighted Tinubu's political experience and long-standing role in Nigeria's opposition politics. Joining us on Political Brief to discuss these stories is Arise News or Director of News and Politics Editor Somna Sambo. Good morning, Somna. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, sure. What a day.
All right. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Dr. Bati. Good morning,
I respect him for that.
Good morning to our viewers.
Okay, Somna, to make things
Sambo,
easier,
Sambo.
whatever Keyamo is saying about the president,
I like
what do you expect
Sambo
him to
job,
say
man.
anyway? He serves at the pleasure of the president. So we expect him to praise his principal.
But
quickly, your take on this matter of INEC and ADC. Either INEC versus ADC or ADC versus INEC. And whether indeed the convention of the party will hold tomorrow, April 14, as previously announced. And then the point that the party is also having issues. Look at the congresses. They had issues in Edo State. They had issues in Katsina. There were controversies, even in Adamawa. So, the protests, the court case, what is really the prospect for that party, particularly now that Bolaji Abdullahi, the spokesperson of the party, says, well, they also have concerns about whether the party will be on the ballot. Then tomorrow, the court case involving PDP, the Turaki-led faction, insisting that the Wike faction is not victorious, and that in fact it was even wrong of the Wike faction to go and take over the secretariat. Those, I think, are the two... the PDP headquarters in Abuja, Wadata Plaza. So all of those issues, PDP, and then ADC, and then INEC, the state of play, in your view.
State of play.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Abati. And I want to start with the issue of Keyamo. I mean, he reminds me of somebody called Wadanas, former Minister of Special Duties under the Abacha administration, where, Wadanas was a very strong voice who was always kicking campaign. I could remember one of his interviews that he granted CNN in 1998 in the run-up to that preparation for elections as we were transiting towards democracy. And of course, he was so certain about how that election was going to hold and the certainty of Abacha, contesting that election. And eventually we all saw how things turned out. Now, appointees in government will definitely want to push out the narrative of their principles. I didn't expect Festus Keyamo to say otherwise. But nonetheless, I will just ask that they be not too, be overconfident of the political process. Because if you look at the results of the last election, I think it will be bad politics on their part for them to confidently think that President Tinubu will just win. Because I'm thinking that they are over-strategizing in the APC and they are pushing their luck too far. Because, if not over-strategizing, talk to me how you would, in quote, be a very strong political strategist like President Bola Tinubu is, and then you allow all your opponents who had votes much more closer to you in the last general election to all be in one political umbrella, one political platform. I thought that the best of politics that will come out of President Tinubu is to ensure that these, disparate groups, the Peter Obi group, the Atiku group, the Kwankwanso group will still remain wherever they are. And then, it may look like it will become much easier for President Tinubu to coast home. But whatever politics that the presidency and the APC-led federal government are playing that have led all the opposition to coalesce together and be, in the same umbrella, for all the three key opposition leaders to come together and be in the same platform, for all the opposition political parties, including the smaller ones that didn't want to coalesce together, to be thinking of coming together all against the APC. I'm thinking that the APC has overplayed itself. I'm thinking that, President Tinubu has, skillfully done politics in such a way that if he's not careful, it may affect his figures in the next election. Because if you look at how close the figures were, and you will know that it was more of like a narrow escape for President Tinubu in the last elections. And I would think that he wouldn't have allowed a situation whereby all these persons, Peter Obi having about 6.1, Atiku Abubakar having about 6.8, and then, of course, President Tinubu himself, and then all these other groups coming together. I'm thinking the tactics are, being overstretched. And so the APC strategists need to have a rethink and not be too confident. Now, let's talk about the issues that we have in the opposition political parties. Yes.
Was nicknamed Wada Noise. Are you saying that Keyamo is also making noise this time around?
Of course, I mean, you're not far away from that. If you look, he's always trying to look for the trouble of the opposition, trying to taunt them and all of that. I mean, that's the same thing that Wadanas was doing in those days, himself and this young chap then, Kanu, who organized the youth earnestly asked for Abacha in, in 1998, where, Kanu was always saying that they had brought about 3 million Nigerian youths out to support Abacha. But on ground, I mean, the figures were like about 150,000. But of course, they went around the whole capitals of the world, letting people know that Nigeria could not survive without an Abacha. I hope we're not beginning to get into that kind of era. I mean, President Tinubu has, played the politics very well. And I continue to give him credit for what he's been doing because he's very good at politics. But when it comes to governance, it's left for Nigerians to know whether he's so much good at governance the way he's so good in politics. But of course, there has to be the role of you knowing that politics can always go the other way. Without wasting much time, let's talk about the issues of the ADC stuff. The ADC will tomorrow be having 3 events. One is the national convention that they are planning to hold. The latest, I spoke with some of their officers. They told me that they've been trying to get a venue in Abuja. The Eagle Square was denied them, that the velodrome of the National Stadium in Abuja here was denied them, and that they had booked 2 event centers, and the owners of the event centers are being threatened and being asked, by people in court that look like those part of the administration, asking the owners of those private enterprises not to give them out. So one of them even said that they had done some booking. But despite that, the booking had been done prior to that. And one continues to wonder what exactly will be leading to all of it. Because we saw the APC holding this convention at the Eagle Square, no hassles. The same thing with the PDP at the National Velodrome, no hassles. So, I mean, if indeed INEC has stepped down the ADC and they say ADC is not a force, then how come, it looks like ADC is also being deprived of these venues, which are public facilities for everyone. It's not meant for the governing party. Neither is it meant for the major opposition as the PDP is. I believe every political party should have the right to host events at these places. And then INEC had been written to by the ADC. And of course, these opportunities come and then we see these challenges. I think that the ADC needs to put itself together while it has its own internal challenges. But nonetheless, we will wait as journalists to play our role tomorrow as we see whether that convention will hold or not. But they are insisting that the convention will hold, even if it's going to be at an open field. Our job at Arise News here is to monitor the events. And then the key second thing that will be happening tomorrow is the court. At the court, you will be seeing where the Supreme Court will be hearing this case of David Mark and then, of course, trying to seek the interpretation of the court on the ruling of the Court of Appeal, whether indeed the Federal High Court should go ahead and listen to this court that was brought by Nafiu Bala Mohammed, because they are insisting that Section 83.5 clearly states that issues that have to do with the internal politics, internal affairs of political parties should not be heard. But of course, the Court of Appeal thought otherwise and said they should go back to the Federal High Court. And so they've now decided to go to the Supreme Court to seek an interpretation. So we'll be waiting to hear from that. And then the third factor is that same tomorrow, the Federal High Court will now be sitting on the same case. So, I mean, it's going to be a very tough situation for the ADC tomorrow. But I'm hearing that the Federal High Court may likely, in deference to the Supreme Court, step down its own case, and then we'll see how things play out. But the ADC itself continues to push strong and go ahead with its congresses, despite what, INEC had warned, and then, of course, this convention, despite what INEC had warned. But, of course, they feel that they are in their own right to continue with these congresses, but the congresses have also shown the underbelly of the problems in the ADC. And Dr. Abati, I'd like to let you know that this is the clinical problem that we have with the polity in Nigeria. ADC says they want to come and save Nigeria. On the one hand, you can see that the issues of internal democracy are lacking in the party. Look at, for example, Edo State, Odige Oyegun, and Senator Roland Owe. They are all at par fighting themselves over who is the rightful chairman-elect of the ADC in that state. The same thing you would see in Katsina, and then, of course, other states. Court, orders here and there flying up and down. And you just wonder, if ADC says it's coming to save Nigeria and it can't save itself from these little challenges within the party, what exactly is it coming to do at the center? It's not just to say you want to come and play opposition politics. Opposition politics actually starts from the internal democratic mechanisms within your party to show that you're in control of good governance and so on. Look at the infighting that has led them to this. If, for example, they had decided to give Nafiu Bala, Gombe, a position, even if it were a deputy national chairman, like you had said the other day, to just make him feel, like he belonged, they wouldn't be where they are. But people are already fighting for position, and political leaders are telling others that, look, you are too young to hold this position. We have been in this game. And that's why the APC keeps saying that, look, these are expired politicians. And these are people who have been causing trouble for Nigerians over the years. Now, can the ADC show that it's different? Because these are the problems that we're having. The major problem that we have is the lack of internal democracy in political parties. Whether the APC, the ADC, the PDP, it's a Nigerian political problem. And I don't know where citizens will go from here, because it looks like leadership recruitment is a very huge challenge in the country. And now let's talk about the congresses that have been said that will be inaugurated sometime next month. The ADC has to be very careful and see how it balances these factors with the former ADC state chairmen that were there. Because some of them are still claiming that their seats, their positions have not expired. Their tenures have not expired. And as a result of that, some of the congresses that are being conducted will be in violation of what brought them into power. And if this is going to be the case, then of course it means the cases are just starting, just like other cases that we have. And then of course, what of other cases that the ADC still has? With the Kachuku group, for example, the other state chairmen that are saying that, look, they will organize their own convention, or have they agreed together to come and coalesce into this convention tomorrow? These are questions that we'll be expecting the ADC to answer. And people are looking at these platforms and already saying that with all these problems that we have in the ADC, many people are still coming into the ADC. I mean, you saw Mohammed Hatuddin, one of the PDP presidential aspirants last year, joining the ADC just yesterday. You have lots of people, former Kano governor, joining the ADC and all that. So we'll continue to wonder what exactly is in that ADC that's making them to join. But I think that they have their own game plan. And from what I'm hearing from some of the political leaders, they're actually insisting that if between now and May, middle of May, things don't go well, they may actually, adopt another political platform. But as to being on the ballot, like you have said, they are claiming that they actually be on the ballot.
All right. Well, a number of questions you've raised this morning, Somna. Time will tell. Time will tell. Thank you very much indeed for your time with us today on Political Brief. Well.
And in a related development, a chieftain of the African Democratic Congress in Taraba State, Professor Sani Yahaya, says the party's Northeast Bloc is backing former Vice President Atiku Abubakar as his sole presidential candidate for the 2027 elections. A TVC News senior reporter Wolabi Adenusi filed in this report.
Political alignments are beginning to take shape ahead of the 2027 general elections, and in Taraba State, the African Democratic Congress is signaling its direction. Party leaders here say they have endorsed former Vice President Atiku Abubakar as their preferred presidential candidate, describing him as the most credible aspirant within the party. During an inspection of a campaign office being prepared in Jalingo, Professor Sani Yahaya and Jibril Bello say the facility was put together to support Atiku's ambition.
And today, you see where we are. This is the office I opened, and my friend here. We opened this office for the Atiku Abubakar presidential campaign in Taraba. We have nobody. Atiku is our party. Atiku is our party, and ADC is our party. Since Atiku is in ADC, we are in ADC. That's why we felt that we should make our effort to open a presidential office for him in Taraba.
Professor Yahaya insists the Northeast bloc of the party is united in its support for Atiku, citing his experience and political influence.
Northeast has never ruled this country. It's the only zone that's left now. You know, if you are going to do the right thing, I think every zone should support us, which I know this is our own time, and everybody is supporting us. And let me tell you one thing. I take it, whether Atiku could be in Lagos now, where Tinubu comes from, Atiku is the best product for this country. Is the best product. And now let me tell you why I'm telling you this. In our political space in Nigeria, we don't have somebody like Atiku.
The ADC chieftain also used the opportunity to declare his intention to contest the Taraba state governorship under the party's platform. He says his ambition is driven by a desire to address marginalization and deliver development across the 16 local government areas.
You go nowhere. You can see now, since the creation of Taraba from Gongola, one section of the state are ruling this state. Nothing, no change. You have seen what is happening in our state. So because there is no justice, no fairness. So why Professor is different from other? Because they knew what I did before. They knew what I'm going to do. We have our stock. Everybody should go and check what Professor did and what other people did. That is the passion people have on Professor, and they are calling me to contest, and I am contesting.
He adds that his political structure is already established across the state. Meanwhile, party officials say Taraba has concluded its congress with plans for candidates to emerge through consensus arrangements ahead of the party's national convention. Political watchers say these early alignments could shape the ADC's prospects heading into the 2027 elections.
And out. Hello everyone,
It's
thanks
all
for
about
joining us. You're watching
consensus,
TVC News at 4. I am Precious Amayo. Former Governor of Kaduna State, Nasiru El-Rufai, has pleaded not guilty to corruption-related charges filed by the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission before the Kaduna State High Court. The court proceedings saw an amendment of the charges, with one co-defendant struck out, leaving Mr. El-Rufai to face the trial more independently. The charges against him include allegations of abuse of office, fraud, intent to commit fraud, and conferring undue advantage linked to financial misconduct. The former governor arrived in court under tight security at about 9 a.m., drawing the presence of supporters and observers. During the hearing, his legal team advanced arguments, seeking his bail as proceedings continued. The court subsequently adjourned the case to April the 14th for bail hearing and possible ruling. Following the session, El-Rufai was returned to ICPC custody pending the determination of his bail application. The case, which is part of multiple ongoing legal matters against the former governor, saw no major breakthrough as proceedings focused on plea taking, charge amendments, and scheduling.
The motion for bail was taken by the court. The court took the plea of the defendants. The prosecution amended the charge and removed one person, leaving only Malam El-Rufai to face the prosecution. So that's basically what happened. It's been adjourned till tomorrow, tentatively, for ruling on the application for bail. They've altered some of the charges were given to us this morning, and that was the reason why we could not proceed to hearing, because the charges are basically new. So whatever it is that we see, we are going to study them. Whatever it is we see, we'll probably do our analysis and let the world know what we think about it, and let the court know what we think. There's nothing we can do right now about it. They are brand new. They were given to us while we were in court.
So one of their main man is in custody. El-Rufai is one of the pillars of the ADC. I can say that. And
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. You're watching TVC News at 4. I am Precious Amayu. Former Governor of Kaduna State, Nasiru El-Rufai, has pleaded not guilty.
the Obedience are saying, if not Obi, then I will agree. While Atiku is busy oiling his structure already. And as you can play this video.
News senior reporter Wulabi Adenusi filed in this report.
This guy.
Political.
We have our stock. Everybody should go and check what Professor did and what other people did. That is the passion people have on Professor, and they are calling me to contest, and I am contesting.
He adds that his political structure is already established across the state. Meanwhile, party officials say Taraba has concluded its congress with plans for candidates to emerge through consensus arrangements ahead of the party's national convention. Political watchers say these early alignments could shape the ADC's prospects heading into the 2027 elections.
Structures, Atiku don dey oil a structure for what? Consensorship. ADC moved towards consensus candidate selection ahead of convention. So that's what I keep saying. All this cost delay, all this, it might not necessarily be that APC, the engineer, but it is hard for people to see that because the narrative out there has already indicted the Tinubu administration, and them two are not helping matters. They are enjoying it. If you ask me, that's why they are being sarcastic attitude towards it. They are enjoying it because yes, one can argue it is a good it'll be a good advantage for APC to see ADC in constant cohesion. That one day, right? But if you look at it critically, when you have personality like Atiku, Obi, saying that they are the best man for the job, and no one is ready to shift ground. Right? Everybody is making that claim based on where their support is coming from. Atiku is banking on the structure they have established over 3 decades. Obi is banking on the energy of the young people and the reality on ground. So it's very hard. Now, if they really mean well for the country now, let's say, okay, let's put personal interest aside, which is pretty much impossible, right? But let's say where their sponsorship going money is coming from. People who put money on the table are saying this is what they want to see. The two of them should harmonize and come out with the tickets. Then that would be something, to to watch. But in this case, I don't see it happening, right? But it's politics. Anything is possible. If they settle for consensus candidate, because the electoral bill of 2026 limits the path to the tickets to either direct primaries or consensus. So it only makes sense if I be Atiku, because the party, whether we like it or not, is built around Atiku presidential ambition. So most of the key positions within that party already will be going for him. Obi coming later, and I'll argue that Obi moving to ADC is just a tactics to avoid Tinubu onslaught and every other interested party out there who don't want to see presidential ambition come to fruition. So moving to ADC makes sense. It's a shield. Right? Who you want attack, how you want the attack come from. You have to go extra mile. You have to spend a lot of resources. You have to do a lot of research. So it doesn't really. So on that angle, Obi make a great move. Right? But if his goal is to deputize Atiku, he don't necessarily need to move to the ADC at this point. Go up with a senator, they will announce him as senator. But with the presence of people like Amechi, that also puts a question mark on that Obi being, going for the deputy slot under Atiku. Amechi is spending a lot of money. Amechi is not moving around because he just wants to be on the news. No, and as I'm talking about Amechi is not moving around because he still get money to spend. No, spending money for a reason. The best he can get in ADC is deputized to aim for a second position. So the logic of the late consensorship favor Atiku Abubakar. And as I said, if the Electoral Act of 2026 supports only two way of primaries, direct and indirectly, then it only makes sense for Atiku to engineer this crisis that the ADC are going through. Not necessarily Tinubu. I think Tinubu has a lot on his plate at this point of the game than to want to develop all these, even 1% of the resources to the pictures the ADC. It's too early to want to, for APC want to invest in confusion of the internal confusion of the ADC. Now. It's too early. Now, after they don't get their ticket together, that's when you begin to find a way to cause a confusion within ADC. Or you don't even need to even cause confusion. Just put up better money, buy all their all their Bibles, from the party chairman to ward chairman. So now, if they settle for direct primaries, the reality of that is the logistics. We have over 170,000 polling units across the country. That's a lot of movement. That's a lot of money within a short period of time to spend. So even if the money is on ground, ability to deploy them to the right places is pretty much impossible. On both INEC, who we have to monitor the election across all the 170,000 units in the country, but even on the individual candidacy too, where the obedience, where they want to see that kind of money to deploy at this point. I mean, when is the manpower to do it? If to say they don't start this journey 2 years ago, have like 20,000 volunteers across the nation, that would have been easy. But that's not the case. So the reality of Nigeria, physical reality of Nigeria, navigating the length and breadth of the country in terms of to make sure that you have men and resources everywhere. There's no time for that. So direct primaries are expensive and require massive mobilization across every ward. 175, I mean, 76,000 polling units, wards across the country. Now you see. So by pushing internal crisis to elevate, the hour, it's very important. I said it earlier on. At least in the kind of politics where they play, about 4 things that are very important. Number one is money. Money buy everything, including votes. right? If you don't have the money, but you have the ability to actually attract that money. And that's where Obi stand out in terms of Showore. Those who are financing Obi presidential ambition understand, they could see clearly the correlation between the electability and campaign money. They know Obi is electable at this time of the game, this time of our Nigerian history. So they are ready to put in their money. The possibility of Obi getting elected is more higher than Showore. So it doesn't matter, it doesn't make sense to go and invest in Showore at this point. So Obi, even if he doesn't have the billions, Obi has the capacity to attract that billions, right? But we're talking about the time when they go able to, mobilize that resources and deploy it across the country. There's no time for that. You're talking about weeks. I've been a month now, sir. Now next month be the deadline for primaries, if I'm not mistaken. So the window for organizing a proper direct primary is off the window. So the only option available to them is what? Consensus. So the consensus is the only legal emergency that they are going to use to exit or to meet the INEC deadline. So instead of actually looking at APC responsible for what is going on in ADC now, they should look inward. It could be Amechi, right? Consensus people Amechi. Should Obi say in no agree deputize article? He's sliding. That's why he's doing whatever he's doing. He's positioning himself. So it could be Amechi that is responsible for the chaos that is going on in ADC, not necessarily the APC. It could, as I said, the number one suspect is Atiku. It favor him. Another angle to look is the favorite advantage. So when the window is so tight, yes, I was talking about four most important things when it comes to this process. I'm talking about money. Money buy everything, including votes. Right? Another thing there is time. Time. Timing is very important. If, let's say, if Atiku don't buy all the media buyable 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it doesn't matter what you do, 2, 3 hours, 2 weeks to the date. It's too late. Or unless you have more, you are ready to pay premium, pay 3 times for those media to say to give Atiku middle finger. What's come to worst, you go sue them. There's enough money to what? Go through the legal process. Then another thing, then before you talk about votes, votes come last because power, at the center of power, is through negotiation. You negotiate first because in politics you don't get what you want, you get what you can negotiate for. So when you negotiate a position, if you negotiate to be a vice president, a deputy president, or a presidential candidate on a particular platform, before you now turn to the people for votes. It's not the other way around. So that's why power, the center of power, is by negotiation. So yes, the window for that, again, is not there. So in a rush consensus scenario, the person with the most established national network and political capital will be the favorite. And in this case, when it comes to ADC, you have to give it to Atiku. Atiku structure is cut across the length and breadth of this country, not because of ADC over the years. Nobody saying go come back. The guy has not skipped any presidential election for the past 30 years. Consecutively, one after the other is there. That has to count for something. So he has the network in his favor. That's a huge political capital. How much you have to make to be able to spend to be able to topple that. So in this scenario, Atiku has the strongest hand here, being the favorite. So the party leadership desperate to avoid disqualification, which is why I said all these crises at the late hour might not necessarily be coming from outside, but inside. So now the party as a whole is in question now. The man will won't contest for councillor for their local government. His fate is hanging on this crisis. The guy we won't contest for Senate, the House of Rep, the governors are cut across it. That you see waiting article don't they do for Taraba, right? They've already set in the presidential campaign office. So there is a lot of people's faith, money hanging on this crisis that we are seeing. So the pressure will come from every angle. That's why I say, don't necessarily look inside. Look outside to the opposition party. Look inside. The problem will be coming from inside. So the party leadership now, at this point, the focus will be narrow and they are in a desperate mood to avoid disqualification for failing to field a candidate. So it will force them to settle for what? The most viable name. The most viable name. You go all the royal institution, this is your home in Nigeria. You don't have to speak too much grammar or use too many syllables to describe who article is. They know how. Either their papa we don't die, had lunch with him before he died, or the man who sit down for the throne was a business partner, or the potential next king that will come. They run things with. So the guy is well established. That is not something. I don't think it's debatable compared to what the Obi. Obi, as I said, has the energy of the youth, but that doesn't work much. when you put all the chains on the table, it doesn't really work much because the youth has a little role to play in terms of when it comes to who produce a president, especially when it has to do with a system like the one we practice, which is 100% for sale. Our leadership from the grassroots level to the top, they are all for sale. That's how the system was designed. It's about money. This is what it is. Another thing to actually that make me believe the article or the problem of ADC is coming from inside, not outside, and article is the number one suspect, is starving the alternative. So at this point of the game, article alternative is not Tinubu, is Obi, is Amechi, is Erufai, it's Congo. Those people within this ADC. Same goes to Obi. That's why I say those way they say Tinubu no go win 2027. Tell me who go win. Nobody will be able to tell you this is who go win because they are not even sure of being in the contest. And it doesn't make sense that at this time again, I would say 6 months before the election, you are not even 100% sure. You can't even hit your chest and say, yes, I'll be contesting. And then how the fuck do you win? So starving the alternative for this individual are within themselves. So delaying the process prevents what they call dark horse, right? Dark horse candidate or younger reformer, you know, who has what it takes to build momentum, necessary momentum. And that's Obi. That's where Obi has an advantage. Obi is seen as that dark horse, somebody who can just pull it off from nowhere. That candidate who is young. Among all of them, Obi is young. That's why it resonates with the younger people. So when you know that these are your disadvantage, the only way to overcome that is to cause crashes that will delay the process. Why? Because they will not have the necessary momentum or fundraising ability to challenge the consensus decision. So if we wake up tomorrow and ADC say na Atiku na be their consensus candidate, the youth energy alone is not enough to challenge the decision of the NEC. After all, their constitution say NEC even has the power above that of a convention. So the NEC can decide to come together, as the National Executive Council of the party can decide to come together and say, this is who we choose and stand. That's what their constitution says. So the noise, the energy of the Obidient, it's not enough to challenge that process. Right? Or I don't know their financial network. I don't know who and who is in their donation orbit, right? But I doubt if that person get enough money, of those groups, that network get enough money to fight Atiku this late hour. Because we are talking about, that means Atiku don't already spend the money 2 years ago. So over that 2 years, he don't already amass another money for grant to fight the process. So the opposition, the Obidient now, the money where they gather now to organize the main campaign. Now trying to use it to challenge the neck of the party, it's a waste of time, waste of resources. The best thing to do is to what? Go look for another party to go spend that money or half of it. And you will still get a ticket. And if I want to go by the principles of Coach Ade of Ibadan, say the game of final is the game of anybody. That's why Obito say it's all about movement for him, not necessarily party. Even though you understand the importance of party. So if ADC, I will if I be Obidient, you know, I will carefully prepare my mind, right? Make them save their energy to fight what they cannot win within the ADC. Should be looking for who is going to deputize will be an ADC, NDC. NDC in a new party. Who will deputize will be? I think that's the next thing I will do. Talk about who Kokoso. I don't see that happening. But they will need somebody with almost Kokoso popularity. Almost. It doesn't have to be, because I'm not sure any other person gets Kokoso popularity in the north outside Atiku. Erufai is an almost candidates. Tambawa is an almost, that has that kind of popularity. But those people can deputize Obi. So if the Obedience really want to show up and show out on 2027, the whole energy should be redirected to hunting for Obi deputy or focus on getting 6 million or more. Because and not that it's not possible that Obi will say, okay, we go join Atiku, we deputize Obi. That is more of a possibility than to say Obi will win the ticket, unless Atiku no go contest. But when you see states coming out under the ADC umbrella, not just adopting Atiku, but opening an office for Atiku, presidential office, then the idea that he will step aside is off the window. So we are in a way, not just the same thing. We are at the same point we were in 2022. Because it was pretty much APC and every other party, PDP. But after PDP primary, it will be left. Right? They were all together, but after primary, he left. Then Kokozo said, find your way. Right? So, in a way, they are all together now. So, after this, their primaries, that is going to, moving towards consensorship, they will, Obi, you have to go again. Then Kokozo will have to say, okay, where am I? He used to go leave. Kokozo will join APC. I know that's very hard to believe, but I'm ready to be wrong. Listen to Swansea, former governor of Benue, who wants to run for Senate.
Personal about it.
Sounds a lot like what you said when you were in PDP.
When we meet, yes, there's nothing. Yeah, it's just political. If Senator Okume calls us, we will go. If we meet him, we defer to him. So we're not enemies, but there are political disagreement, which is normal in a political setting. So Abati, I didn't join APC to fight Senator Okume. I joined APC because I saw that as a student of contemporary economics, I saw some of the economic policies that the current president embarked on. I have my hesitation because I know what the Asian tigers went through. Countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, in the exceptions of Singapore, when they embarked on similar economic policies, it took their people a long time, but they're better for it. So in the long run, this country would be better for it if these economic policies were implemented and focused. So I decided that let me be part of history. When our children will eventually say that, well, the president took very courageous and very painful decisions, but they are paying off in the long run. Let me be part of history, a part of those that will be referred to as part of those who joined the president in supporting him to take that courageous decision that he has taken. So it's a whole lot. It's not just joining APC because I want to contest for an election or I want something. It's far from it. It is that Alia, as a governor, is doing very well in delivering on his promises. The president has taken very courageous steps, which previous presidents have not been able to do. And it's paying off. When I was governor, I was owing salaries. No governor in this state is talking about owing salaries. They're also paying pensioners. So if he didn't take those steps, of course, Alia as governor of Benue State would have been facing the same situation that I faced when I was governor. And now he's paying salaries. He's embarked on many projects. Abati, I'm not holding brief for the governor, but I'm supporting him. So I will ask that you should find time and come to Benue and see for yourself. Because when you are in Abuja and you read on the social media, people say a lot of nonsense, things that are not there. Some are paid, some just to score cheap political point. But go to Benue, you see a whole lot of difference.
Senator Susom, can you hear me? All right, thank you so much.
I can hear you very well.
Thank you so much for your time with us today. Like you mentioned, you're not holding brief for the governor. We look forward to an interview with the governor himself so he can defend some of the,
Now, the African Democratic Congress has called for the immediate resignation of INEC Chairman Professor Mupiton over allegations of partisanship. In a statement signed by spokesman Bolaji Abdullahi, the party said the emergence of a 2023 pro-Bola Tinubu social media post allegedly linked to the INEC chairman raises serious concerns about the credibility of the electoral body. The ADC also stated that this development undermines public confidence and calls the Commission's neutrality into question. The party further alleged attempts to alter digital records to conceal past political affiliations, describing the move as a threat to transparency and accountability. It stressed that an electoral umpire must not only be independent, but also be perceived as impartial at all times. The ADC further disclosed plans to escalate its response by updating petitions to relevant institutions, including foreign governments and the Nigerian Bar Association. It added that it would intensify civil disobedience actions until the INEC chairman steps down from office. While the calls for the resignation of the INEC chairman, they're gaining traction, especially online, where many Nigerians have published claims linking the professor to the controversial X handle, including a phone number and email address allegedly linked to that handle. For a conversation around these and more, we'll have policy analyst Professor Anthony Killer, who joins us now. Good afternoon, Professor. Many thanks for being here.
Good afternoon. Good to be here.
Great to have you as always. Now, what do you make of these calls by the ADC? From your perspective, do you see the INEC chairman as partisan?
Well, I think it's a very unfortunate situation for the country to find ourselves in such a situation with, barely a year to election time and barely just a few weeks to a lot of important deadlines. It is difficult to dispute the feeling of the ADC and other opposition members. One might, argue against the method or the strategy they're using, but one can see why they can feel bad. If they truly feel that the umpire is not independent, let alone affiliated to one of the side, then of course they want to ask for their resignation. That's a very important thing. But if I were the one advising, I think what we ought to be looking for, and perhaps it's a bit late, but it's never too late to do the right thing, is actually process more than the person. I'm very worried that if the system remains the same and they bring in a new INEC chairman, there's nothing stopping from that person to do the same thing that Professor Mupeton is doing. I think what parties need to ask for is a process that is transparent, that is inclusive, and that ensures that nobody feels marginalized or worked against. But that said, there are some issues there that are very simple and yet very complicated. This issue of having a Twitter account is either somebody's mistaken or somebody's lying. If it turns out that my colleague, a professor of law, is lying about having an account, that's a very grave thing. If I were in his shoes, if the account is mine, I'll come out and say, yes, it was mine, but that doesn't mean I cannot do my job well. We need to look at the process. But, if it's not his own and they're misunderstanding him, then that is not good either. But, he can overlook that. What we cannot overlook is if the professor of law is lying to the public, that would be a very grave thing. I think, but it's all a series of unfortunate things that is going on. You can understand the stance of the opposition party. Of course they want him to go. I'm not surprised at all. I'm even surprised it took them long. I do not think they're asking him to go just because of the Twitter account or the Twitter tweets. I think that is the latest thing. I think they stopped liking or trusting him when he took away their chairman and their secretary.
And the guy...
And I'd like to say, I think he did that too lightly as well.
All right, Professor Killer. Some would say that he's a victim of circumstance, that all our hands and all fingers should be pointed towards the Electoral Act. Because if the Electoral Act still remains the same, and in terms of appointment and the rest of them, why would you probably shoot the messenger?
Oh, can you say that again? Sorry, I didn't hear you very well.
All right, so I spoke. So some are saying that Professor Amopitan is a victim of circumstance, that all fingers should be pointed towards the Electoral Act, that if the Electoral Act remains unchanged in terms of appointments, why shoot the messenger?
Yes, the Electoral Act is what we ought to be looking at. The process which INEC follows, the approach, is what we ought to be looking at. That is why I think while it is understandable to ask for the resignation or removal, I think instead of resignation, they should ask him for his removal actually. Instead of asking for his removal or resignation, what they should be looking at is the process and the approach. I think that is what we guarantee that the next person or whoever that is, or the same person, does not do things that would appear to be against a part in the competition. It's about the act, it's about the process. That is where I stand too. But again, I want to be very clear on this. I understand why they want him to resign. If they feel he's against them, then he's not, he cannot be trusted. So you can understand why.
Well, Professor, since you're talking about not necessarily the focus should go into the process as opposed to just removing the resignation or removal of the INEC chairman, why don't we have both? If indeed he's found to be lying, like you alluded to earlier on, if the INEC chairman is found to be lying to the Nigerian people, you did say that is a very that's very significant, negatively, of course. If we look at removing someone that may be lying, if he's found to be lying, and also look at the process, would that be more robust?
Oh, well, I totally agree with you. That's a strong enough reason. If he has an account and he says, I don't have the account, and he's issued a statement saying he hasn't got an account, and he turns out to have the Twitter account, that is enough reason to remove him. I mean, and the lesson there is that technically, actually, there's nothing wrong in him in that thing. In the opening of his book, I think the man died. Wole Soyinka wrote, the reason of my arrest is different, detention is different from my arrest. His real crime is not having the account. It might be a sin to have the account. It might be a sin to have tweeted that things. The real crime is to lie, to say the account is not mine, or I did not tweet those things. That is enough reason, enough grounds to remove him, not even to resign.
But
so to that extent, yes, the two things can be asked for.
Yeah, but in terms of the process,
because if he lies on that, then you cannot trust him on other things.
Yes, but in terms of the process that you talked about, that would be more profitable in the long run. What would make this process less frustrating? Because of course we can anticipate that some would kick against reviewing the process because the current situation favors them. So what would make this airtight?
In terms of process and approach, there are ways to go about the job of INEC chairman. And I think regardless of if he is independent or affiliated or not to the APC, I think he has taken some wrong steps. For example, when he was about to choose the date, I think he could have called a meeting and agreed those dates with the party chairman and secretary rather than announcing it and changing those dates. That is consultation. When they chose the date, for example, and then they had to change that date because it falls on the Muslim calendar, I personally would not have cared if it falls on the Muslim calendar. I do not believe that because it's a religious day you cannot vote. That's a wrong attitude. But given that I'm in the minority, given that most Nigerians think so, his lack of considering that is a lack of consideration. He should have done that. The announcement of validation of a permanent voter's card to then change your mind is a sign of inability to foresee things well. So that means there was not enough consideration, consultation, and enough communication to make those choices. So to that extent, I think so far so bad for the new INEC chairman, because his decisions do not appear to be thorough, they do not appear to be consulted, they do not appear to be well considered. And that is why you have this back and forth. And that is what opens him to be frameable and to be being, to be subject of attack and suspicion. If he had carried along the parties, there are many political parties in Nigeria, they can fill any sizable room if they sent in 2 or 3 delegates to just sit with them and say, let us plan the dates together, let us process this together. That kind of process will be less acrimonious in a country where politics is so divided and so important for the people. I think those are the lessons this chairman and any future chairman should learn.
All right, Professor Killer, as we try to wrap up, what can INEC do to save face? What can INEC do to repair what seems to be a broken wall at this point in time?
Well, I think at this point, given this Twitter thing, they need to investigate. If it is true that he had a Twitter account and he lied that he had it, he should go. If it turns out that it is not true, then they should improve the process. Then he should understand. I think the onus is on the chairman himself. If he can overcome this allegation of having a tweet that he denies having. If it is true that the Twitter is not his own, then he has to say, I realize I have a trust issue. Let us work together to overcome that issue. Not to say I don't care or not to just keep fighting. I think that would be wrong. And I'd like to advise the people in the government party, from the presidency to supporters, to stop intervening. It is not the duty of the presidency, it is not the duty of the APC to support the INEC chairman. They should focus on their campaign, they should focus on governing, and let the INEC chairman deal with the opposition and deal with everybody.
Indeed. We'd like to thank you for your analysis, policy analyst Professor Anthony Killer. We appreciate you here on Newsday. Thank you.
All these people, whether they bring come, whether they give you a talking point for distraction.
Welcome back. We are joined.
When they nominate the man, they don't know say the man get all these things. And that's the whole point of me saying after the last election, everybody agreed pretty much what went wrong. The election was rigged, the INEC was biased, all kind of shit. Now those things are not divine problems. They are problems that we actually engineer to existence. And one would think that to avoid that in 2027 is to start going after those obvious issues that was discovered during the election, which is the INEC itself. But no, everybody begin, they go sit down. Days to deadlines. They nominate this man, I don't talk anything. Then confirm him. That's why I always emphasize on the locality of politics. Politics is local. Again, it's also in line why they always criticize these people where they want protest national issue, they will go sit down for Abuja. You want protest against senator, you go Abuja. As you don't want to see Fabio again, you go Abuja, go to protest. That doesn't even make sense. If to say they apply the mentality of politics is local, Nigeria, you go put fire for all these senators and not to confirm that man or confirm the man. Because if they fail to do what you want and they understand the pressure, not in Abuja, not in the city, but in their senatorial district. Because what that means is that the people are aware of their responsibility for what is expected of them and what is expected of people that they voted for. But when you carry every protest, they go Abuja, you are just bidding the beating around the bush. You are doing the same thing. You are bidding the biddings of the elite. If Pabio won't come Abuja as a senator, he will go in constituencies. All the senators are the same. What is that of? But if you now want protest against them, they will go Abuja. That doesn't make sense. So, for the fact that the opposition party were not able to democratize their frustration across the length and breadth of the country, is a sign of failure from get-go. Because one of the excuses they will make to stay on consensus candidate is to say that the logistic to carry out primary direct election is not feasible. And that is a fact. And it's a fact because if to say then democratize their frustration, their protests, they are well grounded in their localities, in all these federal districts, the idea that to mobilize people for direct primary is logistically impossible, will not be a thing to even consider or debate upon. So then nominate the guy, confirm him, and not do anything. Wait till again the damage when time is very important and time is very, very crucial. When I leave him till that time. So all these things, it's all in line of turn by turn. Nobody really want change the status quo among all this opposition, all those people who want power. If they come out the INEC chairman, okay, they will come out and they will next. The power still remains solely with the president to nominate somebody. No expect me Tinubu go nominate will be Ali or Atiku. No, it's not going to nominate his enemy. We nominate his own somebody that we say yes to him. That's every human being will do that. Every human being will do that. So the system is designed to serve just 2% of the population and is working just as they wanted it to work perfectly well. But people fail to see it for what it is. They see them that they know they call these people not job and they deceive us. Both that one way is down pass wrong, both why we want to take over from them. It's very clear they don't give a shit, but you know what? Fuck it. After all, na turn by turn. If I no die, don't just die to get to my turn. All manners of distraction I they employ to delay. The information where they find out now, no be new information, no be information that I have to spend billions to get. When they nominate the man, one they no swing into action. This is crazy.
Well, we are here as a party to make our discomfort known to the independent national
we're not supposed to deploy the train, the educate agents and potential people that will serve in the administration, make them in tune with the policies and all that. They usually they fight. They fight the unfightable.
That in addition to all the legal processes that we are following, that we also register our displeasure at the present situation. So that's why we are here. We want INEC to restore the recognition of the leadership of our party. At the end of the day, matters relating to party leadership are internal affairs of the party, and we want
INEC to restore the leadership of our party, pending the outcome of any legal processes. INEC cannot unilaterally make an interpretation.
Why everything
and
will
then
just stop just because INEC say the chairman cannot operate at that capacity? Why everything will just stop? That should be what people should be worried about. Our own national party will just literally pause because they say the chairman
and we think it will disadvantage us in the electoral process.
What if the chairman die overnight?
Also deprive Nigerians of alternatives and choices in the elections
That's
that
crazy.
come. It is most important for multi-party democracy to have a situation where people have a choice. People must have a choice. We are not
There is
saying
a
that
choice.
they must vote for
Una
ADC under circumstances.
una
No.
get choice,
We are
but
saying
because
that
you
they
guys
must have a
have
choice.
failed
If
to
they choose to vote for APC
do
and elect
anything,
APC, we
now
will
look for
congratulate them.
excuses.
If they choose to vote
So
for
what is not
ADC and they
complaining?
vote for us,
Why? He no get
APC
party.
should congratulate us. But
Why
the
is he not
people
complaining?
must have a choice.
We are protesting.
To pledge a solidarity protest and to ask INEC to return their name back to the portals because INEC doesn't have the jurisdictions to remove anybody's name except judiciary. And until the judiciary said so,
INEC did not remove
everything
them,
remained
court,
the way it
I think.
is until judge, that is until the judiciary that is handling the matter now said that our National Working Committee are no longer recognized. It's not in INEC chairman to say that. So we are protesting. We start this protest because we want their name to be returned back to the portal. So, and we are starting our convention tomorrow. And tomorrow is also the sitting. So we want to hear a very good and validate news, respond from the judge tomorrow. So this protest, we are sending it as a
They
signal
go delay him
to
till
the
Supreme
INEC
Court.
chairman and also to the court.
I must accept
We are not
consensus
protesting
by
because
force.
of ADC alone. It can happen to anybody. We are protesting because of Nigerians,
I'm
because
they
of the
cook
poor
for
masses in
village.
Nigerians. So,
But
ADC
now
is
who
a
they
party
chop
to
the
reckon with.
waiting?
ADC is a friend, but it's a friendly party, it's a youth-friendly party. So that is why we deem it fit to start the protest, and the protest is going to go on for 7 days. We are still going to continue tomorrow.
7 days.
By tomorrow, by the special grace of God, we are starting early. We'll start by 9, and it's going to be massive. So we urge every Nigerian to join this protest. We should stand up and talk in one voice, because this cause we are fighting is not only for ADC, it's for Nigerians.
Balarabe, this is the letter to the INEC chairman. Dear sir, demand for immediate restoration of the ADC leadership under Senator David Mark and Rauf Aregbesola and the defense of democratic order in Nigeria. We write with urgency and unwavering resolve further to our press conference of Monday, 6 April 2026, wherein the youth wing of the African Democratic Congress issued a 72-hour ultimatum to the Commission under your
The youth
leadership.
wing.
That ultimatum has expired without compliance. Your failure to act has not only aggravated public concern, but has reinforced the perception of institutional bias, constitutional overreach,
By the time they
and
choose
deliberate
article, what is they will
undermining of
occupy?
democratic norms by the Commission. For the avoidance of doubts, the following facts remain incontrovertible. On July 29th, 2025, the ADC held a lawful NEC meeting under the supervision of INEC. The meeting validly dissolved the previous National Working Committee and produced a new leadership led by David Mark, with the involvement of Rauf Aregbesola as the National Secretary of the party. INEC duly received, verified, uploaded, and recognized this leadership on September 9, 2025. there was no dispute, no objection, and no ambiguity at the time of recognition. Subsequently, individuals who had relinquished their position resurfaced to challenge a lawful process. The matter remains before the courts. The court appeal directed that the status quo antebellum be maintained. The last uncontested position, which clearly remains the leadership under Senator David Mark. Despite these clear facts, INEC has 1. Act on letters and pending motions without judicial determination. 2. Assume the unconstitutional role of interpreting court orders. 3. Disregarded due process and its own verified records. 4. Engage in actions that amount to institutional sabotage. Let it be stated clearly, INEC has no constitutional authority to interpret court orders. That responsibility lies solely with the judiciary. What the Commission has done is not neutrality. It is complicity and a direct assault on democratic governance. We hereby restate and escalate our demands as follows. Immediate restoration of the duly recognized ADC leadership under Senator David Mark and Rauf Aregbesola. Official portal. A public apology to Nigerians for unconstitutional and partisan actions. Immediate cessation of all actions based on letters, pending motions, or non-binding processes. Strict adherence to constitutional limits by refraining from interpreting court directive. Demonstrable commitment to neutrality, independence, and institutional integrity. The immediate resignation or removal of the INEC chairman for actions that have eroded public confidence in the Commission.
Oh, yes.
Following the expiration of our 72-hour ultimatum, we hereby formally notify you that ADC youths, in collaboration with concerned Nigerians and civil society organizations, have commenced the peaceful and lawful occupation of INEC offices nationwide across all 36 states and the FCT. Yes, this action remains peaceful and constitutional, continue indefinitely, and persist until the restoration of the legitimate ADC leadership under Senator David Mark and Rauf Aregbesola. This is not a protest of convenience. It is a necessary democratic resistance. We will not be silenced. This is bigger than ADC.
Yes, sir.
It is about the future of democratic governance in Nigeria. We therefore call on you to act immediately and restore constitutional order without further delay. Yours faithfully. I am doing this on behalf of our national youth leader, Comrade Balarabe Musa, African Democratic Congress Youth Leader. Thank you.
Why are they just harmful? How you go say NDC youth? You don't see half of Obidient among them. This is disrespectful. This is disrespectful. This is Article youth or ADC youth. How you go say NDC youth? Konkose has no dey there. Obidient no dey there. And they are supposed to be ADC. Is anybody not seeing what I'm saying? They deceive their followers.
Let me first commend our youth for being so gentlemanly. We are not ruffians and sacraments.
We are peace for peace.
We are peaceful, we are law abiding, and we are going about our agitation in proper way. And the fact of your leadership is here. Your state chairman, your state secretary is here. The incoming secretary is here, and being a lawyer, we know the rules, and we have been cooperating with INEC. We have had meetings even before you arrived. We have established the fact that we have a right to make an observation that we think is not done in good faith. And so, let me thank you, the youth of ADC.
NDC youth!
Restart Nigeria! And those of us when we were young too, we served Nigeria. We are the ones that chased out the military. We are the ones, when I was in university here, we are the ones that chased down the military. And so what you are doing is in line. You are even more peaceful than us. Yeah, we are fighting military. And let me also commend the Nigerian police and here. We don't have problem with Nigerian security agencies. You are doing your work. You are doing it the most professional way today. Let us commend that. And the fact that our youth are fearless means that they trust you. Please, I would like to ask the leadership of the Independent National Electoral Commission that the same way that our party members have been peaceful, the same way we have been professional, the same way we have engaged in the dialogue, we hope that you will also respond in a way that is favorable to Nigeria and Nigerians. As the issue that has been read out is a thing of great pain for Nigerians to be put in a situation where we will not have the right to choose who should be our leaders. That is what we call democratic oligarchy or democratic autocracy. When a democracy but we don't have freedom. When a democracy but we don't have the right to choose. People will say that our democracy consists of the right to choose our next dictator. That's what this whole thing is all about. Let the people have their rights. Another important message to the chairman of INEC in Abuja. This is not a personal assault on your integrity. It is us fighting, our youth fighting for their future.
Yes.
Which is this. If a party has chosen a leader,
after Amotep, okay, now they'll go to the judiciaries, I think.
if someone else challenges it, until that person has been proven in court to be the rightful owner, the present person must continue. That is what is meaning of status quo.
Okay.
Until you legally divorce your husband, he is still your husband.
Yes.
Even if you are separated for 10 years, you cannot marry another person.
Yes,
you must legally divorce your husband and deed to the wife. So what our youth are saying that I am capturing is that they want the chairman of INEC to reconsider his position. And that position is that it was a personal opinion and personal interpretation that antebellum means that the party remains leaderless. And if a party remains leaderless, there will be chaos. And when there's chaos, the police will now in the 36 states.
Center will not hold.
They will not have problems because everybody will be fighting left, right, and center. We are trying to prevent it by doing this orderly protest, even though it's the youth are the ones that are in charge of it. But we are aligning with you and thanking you for the courage to do what your elders should have started.
Thank you, sir.
God bless you. God bless Nigeria.
NDC you arise! Nigeria!
My name is George Ashiru. I'm the state chairman of African Democratic Congress, ADC.
We are here because we are there. That's just the message from our head. We are here because we are here. Definitely, we are going to the environment. We are grateful to the party leaders for being there. Because they have come to us and have to stop. And like you appreciated the security community, we also grateful to them. You can see the main handling of the process. So it's your right, like today, and to get the feedback. And for you to get the feedback, it's not our own, it's not a thing we can handle. We assure you, we are going to be managed better. And the appropriate time, the feedback comes. We only want to implore you, please let us sustain this tempo of no violence, no crisis. Thank you very much for our answer.
NDC
Wow.
On behalf of our party, African Democratic Congress, ADC, with our colleagues here, we are not complete. We came here to address the press, as it were. As the leader of this present ADC in the chamber, we all met today and come to a conclusion that we need to address the press of the things that are happening presently in the country, and this affects our party ADC that will have their convention tomorrow. On that basis, we have united also as a one family to now elect our caucus leader in the House of Rep under ADC. He is in the person of Right Honorable Afam Ogene, member representing Obaru Federal Constituency from Anambra State. And coincidentally, it's not by coincidence that we need to also give him this very high responsibility. He is part and parcel of the press, and he hoped to retire there when he's tired. So, Mr. Ogene, Honorable Ogene, I'll leave the space for you to now read out and address the press as on behalf of all of us as we agreed.
Aja Janzi. I also thank my very respected colleagues who are here, and those of them who couldn't make it or have not gotten into town yet for our party convention tomorrow. I will just proceed to read our statement. 2027 ADC Reps Caucus call for the prosecution of INEC chairman over partiality and inconsistencies as electoral umpire. The African Democratic Congress Caucus in the House of Representatives held its inaugural meeting on Sunday, April 12, 2026, to review political developments in the nation and resolved as follows. 1. The caucus raised concerns regarding the impartiality and neutrality of the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Joash Amiputan, to oversee a free, fair, and credible 2027 general elections. This follows recent public statements and actions by the chairman deemed to be compromising, partisan, and highly conflicted. It has been alleged that he previously made a partisan statement on his personal X account, wherein he expressed support for the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC. Additionally, he has been accused of posting content alleging Christian genocide in Nigeria.